Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. So I want you to think back to 2005. There was a particular TV show that was really popular at the time called The Chappelle Show. And it starred Dave Chappelle, the famous comedian. And in 2005, this show was at its peak and it was just entering the third season. And then very abruptly, Dave Chappelle leaves the USA, flies to South Africa and ends up staying there for quite some time. And everyone was wondering what's going on. Why did he just suddenly abandon this TV show? And in addition to that, they had actually offered him close to $50 million to do the third season. Now at the time, no one could work out why would someone leave at their very peak? Why would they turn down $50 million and just disappear? And the press started to speculate. They said that he'd gone crazy. Some of them said that he'd gone off on drugs and now he was a drug addict. No one could really work out what the reason was. And he stayed there, I believe, for several years. He came back, he went on Dave Letterman at some point, got asked about it and briefly went into it, but never really told the full story until very recently. In his latest special, which you can see on his Instagram wall, and I'll put a link somewhere below this video so you can go and watch it. It's called The Unforgiven. Goes for about 20 minutes and I've watched it twice in the last few days. It's really, really good. But what separates Dave Chappelle from every other great comedian out there, yes, he is very funny, but more than that, it's his writing. It is his ability to convey such impact of meaning in as few words as possible. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. How do you make your writing better? And this applies to everything. So for example, you could be a professional writer writing content, you could be writing articles, but even just in your emails to coworkers, emails for anything. If you write, and we all write to some degree or another, whether it's in text messages or for work, this lesson is really important. Now, I would consider myself to be a fairly decent writer. There's certainly much better writers out there, but I'm fairly good at it when I really focus and I try and do well. And largely it's due to practice. When I talk about writing, in my case, I write mostly emails, I write video scripts. Some of my videos are scripted, others are not. For example, this one. But when I sit down to write and I put effort into it, I can write reasonably well. And largely that's been practice, a lot of practice over the past 10 years. I started writing daily emails to my list, to my audience, about 10 years ago, and most days for the last 10 years, I've written an email. So I get a lot of practice. And as I've got better and better at writing, the single thing that I most focus on, and the lesson for you, is that you always want to be trimming the fat off your writing. That is the big difference between mediocre writers and great writers. The great writers, it's not the words they're using or sentence structure or anything like that. Yes, those things matter, but it's their ability to convey the full meaning in as few words as possible. Let me give you an example. So all this morning and all this afternoon, I am here filming the brand new 10-day challenge. So I've got to film a total of 12 videos. Each video is going to go for anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. So I'm going to film the whole thing. And in my preparation for this, what I did is I went to a different room, I sat down and I worked for 1 hour blocks and I did 3 hours each morning. And I've now done that about 3 times. So I probably put about 10 hours into writing all my scripts and my ideas. And the majority of my time is spent deleting fluff, trimming the fat from my writing. So for example, this is my first draft. So I printed this off about a week ago, and this is the 12 videos that I'm recording today. Now, if we look through this, you will see there are a lot of notes, okay? There's a lot of scribbles all over it. And all of that represents me deleting all of that fluff, trimming the fat. When I sit down to write, that's my main priority. How do I trim the fat so that I can convey the maximum meaning in as few words as possible? So removing sentences that essentially mean the same thing, that's priority number 1. And then once I've done that, then I go through each of the words. So for example, one of the big fluff words that a lot of writers use and they shouldn't is the word that. If you scan through all of your writing and you delete all instances of that, most of them, you don't need to have that word in the sentence for it to still make sense. So that's what I do. I sit down and I'll spend hours on this, working those 1 hour blocks, and I rearrange all the order. I get rid of any fluff and I want to get it as concise as possible. So that is round number one. I then go to the Google Doc. I have all of this on a Google document, and all of these changes that I've done on paper, I alter in the Google Doc. Now you might be wondering, why don't I just do that on the Google Doc? I find that when you have a pen in hand and you can look at a real page, you can feel it, you can flick through the pages quickly, you can move things around for the structure, it's just easier. So for the really important writing, like a curriculum for a course, this is what I recommend you do. This is what I do. Now, if I'm just writing an email to a coworker, of course, I don't print this off. But for my important projects, this is what I do. So round two, this is my next round. I print this off, I still go through and I continue to refine it. I continue to cross out paragraphs that don't need to be there, take out more words, move the structure around, but I continuously refine it. Now, the important thing I want you to understand is that most great writers, most of the great novelists or people who write film scripts, for example, and I also include copywriters in this, but they will tell you that the first version of whatever they write is usually pretty average. If you saw some of the first versions of the emails that I write, you would be shocked. They are really bad a lot of the time. And so I have to continuously go through and refine. And usually after a few revisions, I can trim off all the unnecessary fat and we get right to the good stuff. So if you want to see an example of great writing, go and watch this special. And even though it's delivered in a very casual manner, I will guarantee you that Dave Chappelle would script down every single word and he would go through editing, trimming the fat to get it down to this succinct 20-minute special. Go and watch it and you'll get a masterclass in great writing. That's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow.